What's my horse's handicap? The fact that you're backing him?
Everyone loves a newbie. That's why Paddy Power Games are giving all new customers 60 free spins on daily jackpot games. New Paddy Power Games customers only. One per customer. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome to this Royal Ascot AntePostcast. I'm Maddie Player. We're joined in the studio by Nick Watts. We also have Tom Siegel and Darren Hughes from Paddy Power on the line. In this week's show, we're going to have a look at the Prince of Wales Stakes, the Hardwicke, the Commonwealth Cup and the Diamond Jubilee. So 4 cracking contests to get stuck into. First off, lads, the Prince of Wales Stakes, a race that really revolves around a lot of the females in the race. No Enable, of course, which has ordered a reshaping of this market, if you like. It's such a shame we're not going to see her, but we've still got the likes of Magical and Sea of Class in there who are towards the top of the market. And Darren, I mean, were there a lot of people on Enable at that stage, do you think, when she was sort of declared a non-runner, or
not as such, Maddie, no, to be honest. I mean, generally you wouldn't get people getting too stuck into a 5 to 6 shot this far out.
No.
You're going to get the same price of the day, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Tom Segal might back it now, but nobody else really would.
Yeah, probably quite wise. Hopefully we'll see it later on towards the end of the year. Magical, she leads your market now then?
She does indeed, yeah. I'll give you the full rundown here. So Magical is our 9-4 favourite, joint favourite, with Sea of Class. Crystal Ocean is 9-2. Massara is 6-1. Wall Geese is 6-1. Gaia is 10s. Old Persian is 12s, and it is 14 far.
Okay. Nicholas Watts, I will go to you first then. Magical this season, what have we learned about her? Because she's won 3 races, she looked very good in doing so, but she wasn't good enough for Enable at various stages last season. Obviously Enable isn't running. Is it as simple as that, and that she's going to take advantage?
For me, with her, it's not about what she's done this season particularly, because if you look at the Group 1 she won last time, you know, there's a lot of furore about that at the time, saying the race should be downgraded because it never attracts a strong field, and, you know, she was odds on and she duly won comfortably. It's more about, for me, what she did last season. Because the middle of the season last year, I didn't think she was anything particularly special. She went off, I think, 40-1 in the Arc and finished only 10th. But as I always say, as we always say with Aidan O'Brien horses, they're so well bred that they can just take off and explode at any point in time. And the back end of last season, maybe it was just she was slow to develop last year, but it all kind of clicked into place for her, and she finished the season in fantastic form. You know, she won at Ascot, the fillies and mares on Champions Day, really, really nicely. She ran a great race behind Enable in America when they went over for the Breeders' Cup. So this season has been more of a consolidation of what she showed at the back end of last season. And, you know, if you just go on what she's done this year, then yeah, she's been winning, but not in particularly great races. But we know it's there. We know she's taken that leap forward from what she did in last autumn. And I think a mile and 2 round Ascot, you know, will be perfect for us. So I do think she's a rightful market leader. I mean, you know, I'm not price wise, so I don't have to dig, you know, deeper if I don't want to. You know, if there's a good market leader in there, I'm quite happy to be with her, and I am on this occasion. I do think Magical will, you know, I think she's so consistent. She's in the zone at the moment, and just compare her with a horse like Sea of Class, who we haven't seen this season. You know, she's had 3 races. She's going to be absolutely wide and spot on for this race. You just wonder if Sea of Class, you know, probably all roads lead to the Arc. It's not to say she won't go here full bore and, you know, obviously be trying to win, but just that it's match practice, isn't it? And Magical's had that this season, Sea of Class hasn't.
Yeah, she has. Darren, I know you said a couple of weeks ago that you think that Ballydoyle have given her a similar sort of campaign to that of Found, who did go on to win the Arc. How do you rate Magical and what she's achieved this season compared to last?
Yeah, look, you're dead right, Maddie. I was going to say the same thing again about the comparisons to Found. Like, the more and more I look at this filly, the more she reminds me of Found. Not necessarily in her race style, but just in her campaign this year. What she done this year, I wouldn't say she's exactly advanced her claims in terms of being a top-notch filly this year. Like, she hasn't done anything particularly special. She's beaten a stare in like Flag of Honour 3 times, roughly the same each time, if you get me. So yeah, I wouldn't say she still has a bit to find, to be honest with you, to be considered top class. Yeah,
I think she's hard to grab in that she's been very good this year, hasn't she, Watsy? But at the same time, hard to get a handle on how sort of strong that form is. Tom, what do you reckon?
She has to be better than Found if she's going to win this, for sure. I don't fancy her at all, to be honest, Maddie. I think 9 to 4 is a shocking price. She's just beaten the same horses. She beat Coronet last year, didn't she? Then I don't trust Breeders' Cup races. Never have, never will do. I think it's the back end of the season race where she was on the up and the others were on the way down. I think she's better over a mile and a half. She proved that when she won the fillies and mares at the track, and I think she's up against a total different class of horse to the one she's raced against before. And that, Enable at the end of last season, I don't think that's Enable's best form any stretch of the imagination in the Breeders' Cup. So no, not for me. I think she's bad price. I
think you could argue out of all the races we're going to preview today, this is probably the strongest and with the most depth. Do you agree with that?
Possibly. I think. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think there's a few in there that you can fancy. Sea of Class, I think, is the best horse by quite some way.
Why have we not seen her? Is it just a case of no big early season target?
Well, she's Group 1 filly, isn't she? Well, there's not that many Group 1s. She could have run in Ireland, I suppose. But I think they're looking forward to a back-end season, aren't they? That's when all the big races are. I think she's got a massive chance in here if she's right. She's right. We don't know how she's going to be compared to the other ones. There's a few others in there that I think have a good chance, and I think we'll come on to them in a minute.
Yeah, we will. Let's stick with Sea of Class for now, because she's bound to be a big contender in this. Watsy won the Irish Oaks, won the Yorkshire Oaks, so narrowly beaten in the Arc last year when she had a wide draw and just came with a wet sail late on. She's very classy, as the name would suggest. We've not seen her, as Tom said, and maybe that might be a slight question mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only question mark you can have against her, really. I mean, we've said it already. You just said it then. Fantastic 3-year-old campaign. Arguably, I mean, there's such small margins, isn't it? She just failed to get up in the Arc, and on another day she might get there by a short head, and it been reversed.
Or in a different sort of. We'd be saying she'd be one of the best fillies in recent years, wouldn't we, if she would have got up? So
yeah, but she made tremendous strides last season. I think she started off in the maiden Newbury, didn't she? And she ended up, going so close in the Arc. Yeah, I mean, she's got it all ahead of her, and she's going to be a big player in all these major races through the season. It's just. I think going into a race like this, a Group 1 Royal Ascot, I would rather side with a horse who has been there and been doing it this season and has got that match practice inside her, because that might just, as we said, these do come down to very, very fine margins, and that could be the difference between. You could see Sea of Class running a fantastic race, finishing second, and as a massive springboard to further races in the second half of the campaign. But we're talking about this race now, and she hasn't run this season. And that's the only question. That's the only thing you can crab about her.
Yeah, Darren. I mean, autumn campaigns, they are trendy these days, and it's not hard to see why, really, with the targets like the Arc, gonna be the understandable aim for Sea of Class. Would you be more keen on her than Magical?
Hard to say, to be honest with you. She's one, and I'm not fully sure why, but I just think she's going to find it a little bit harder this year as a 4-year-old, Maddie. Like, if you go back to
she was a late foal, wasn't she? And she was obviously didn't race at 2.
Yeah. My feeling is, like, obviously, look, she improved as the season went on, but you have to bear in mind the type of weight allowance she was getting as a 3-year-old filly, especially in the Arc. Like, I was chatting to Niall about this the other day, and like the record that 3-year-old fillies have in the Arc is phenomenal, and I think. That's not to say her run wasn't absolutely top notch, because it was. I just think, she's not getting those allowances this year, and she could just find life a little bit harder. Like, I'm not surprised she hasn't been out already. Like, as Tom said there's no pots to be won at this time of the year as such, and there's no point in wasting a filly like that. But to be honest, just starting out, I'll be probably looking to take her on.
Okay. Tom, would you agree with that?
I think she's miles better than Magical. Okay. I don't think it's even close, in my opinion. I think she's just top class, and I think if you priced up a race between them, I'd have Sea of Class long odds on every time. Simple as that.
Are you still, obviously it's this far out and you're not really going to be wanting to back a horse that short, but would you say she's the most likely winner at this stage?
No, I love Waldgeist, Maddie. I love Waldgeist. I think he's a cracking bet at whatever price. I think it was 6-1. Darren said there, I think he's a really, really top-class horse. I think a mile and a quarter is perfect. I think he's had the perfect preparation. He's trained by Andre Fabre. He's by Galileo. Everything going for him. He's not far behind the best at all. The Racing Post ratings will tell you that. Everything will tell you that. He's right on the heels. He might even be rated higher than Magical and Sea of Class. I can't quite see that, but he's right there with them. He was really impressive on his comeback run. He's being trained for the race. I love him. I think he's got a great chance, Waldgeist.
That's very interesting. He's a 3-time Group 1 winner.
Absolutely.
Are we in danger of underestimating him, do you think? Or I don't know.
No, I wouldn't underestimate him if he turned up. I mean, he's been a real improver, isn't he? I mean, I think he was beaten in the Cumberland Lodge a few years ago by Danehill Kodiak, but he's come an awful long way since then. Different horse completely, and Andre Fabre, he's a master, isn't he? And if he comes over, then yeah, he's a massive threat. I'm not underestimating him. He's got a huge chance.
Didn't you think he was better than ever in the Gannet, Watsy? He beat Study a Man 4.5 lengths, Gayeth behind him. It was a proper race. I thought he looked better than he's ever been. Study a Man came out and ran second the other day in the Group 1, didn't he, behind Zabil Prince? I just think he's a really top-class horse that is going under the radar.
You put that margin on horses like that, and you're obviously, out the top draw.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a little bit under the radar because he was fourth in the Arc, and then he went to America and he went to Sha Tin, was it, Hong Kong? Yeah. And he got beaten there. But he's still he won, three Group 1s, isn't he? He's a three-time Group 1 winner, and he's getting better. So he'd be for me all day long.
What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, no, I like Wild Guys, but just something that does kind of concern me is that his record when he does travel. Now, look, I know it's been good races he's coming over to, but he's run below himself on each occasion he's raced outside France. And not just not one, but actually fairly below his best form, I would say. Look, he obviously has form at Ascot, which is a bonus, but the lack of form when travelling will be a slight concern.
Okay, let's move on to Crystal Ocean then, who sort of dances every dance, doesn't he? He's had a similar sort of preparation to last year. He went and won at Sandown, and then he won again last time in the Aston Park. He's very consistent, but he's yet to win a Group 1. We see him on the screen there, finishing second Poet's Word last year. Is he one to take on?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's raced at the top level 3 times and he's been beaten 3 times now. You wouldn't rule him out winning at the top level at some stage because that's what Sir Michael Stout does. He brings these horses on year after year. I'm not quite sure what his best trip is. I mean, as a 3-year-old, he stayed 1 mile 6 and he was runner-up in the Ledger. He's raced over a mile and 4. I think he's won 7 times. I think 4 of them have come over a mile and 4 as opposed to 3 over a mile and 2. He did win the Sandown race much easier this year than he did last year, so maybe he's gained a bit of speed as he's got older rather than the other way around where he's kind of got more stamina. But I think with a horse 0 from 3 at this level, I think for me he's always one to take on. He might just be one of those, he might find a small, one of these, I wouldn't say a cheap Group 1, no Group 1 should be cheap, but Sir Michael Stout will find something for him and maybe he will win a race at the top level. But I see him as kind of running his normal solid race and being placed, but not being quite good enough to win. Yeah,
he's there to be shot at, isn't he, Darren? One that I thought was quite interesting towards the top of the market. Again, we haven't seen him since last year's Derby, which is a concern, is Massar. That form's worked out, obviously. He was going to go to the Eclipse, but then that plan sort of was derailed when he was struck down with injury. I mean, he was a very, very good horse last season, and Roaring Lion proved that form was strong. But again, hopefully we'll see him, but we're not sure at this stage.
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't be quite as strong about his Derby form, Maddie, as yourself. Obviously, look, Roaring Lion did the form look brilliant. He obviously went on to huge things. He was nearly the best 10 furlong 3-year-old in Europe, or probably was the best 10 furlong 3-year-old in Europe.
But that was just because he was stepping down in trip and he was better at those distances.
He was a non-stayer in the Derby, Roaring Lion. DXB has done the form no favour since. Saxon Warrior probably didn't stay either. Hazapur was 5th, didn't stay. I'd see Massar as a real stayer, to be honest with you. He's 6-1 here. To be honest, I probably wouldn't back him at twice that over this trip, coming back off over a year off.
Okay, fair enough. We've got some others to mention. We've got Old Persian. He won at the meeting last year, winning the King Edward VII. He was 7th of 9, worryingly, in the Coronation Cup. We have Gayeth, who again was 3rd in the Gannet race that Tom's mentioned already. And Barney Roy as well, maybe probably likely to stick to the Queen Anne. Is there any others we want to mention, Tom? I'll go to you.
Not really, Maddie. I just going back to Crystal Ocean, I'm not sure he'll run. To be honest, I think he'll run in the Hardwicke and then we go for the King George. That was his plan last year. I don't think Michael Stout will change that. So wouldn't be backing him now because I don't think he'll run. I think Massar is interesting. I love the horse. Always have liked the horse. Preparation's the thing with him, isn't it? We haven't seen him since the Derby last year. So he's obviously, it's unlike Sea of Class, who ran all the way through the season. We haven't seen him for over a year by the time he'll be running if he turns up in this race. So that's the negative against him. I think
What about Zabeel Prince? I mean, connections are keen, him going up in trip, but he's a 6-year-old now.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a cheap one. But he did stumble at the start the other day in that Group 1. He did quite well to win, didn't he? I just think, I know he's got form on fast ground. I've always felt, being by Lope de Vega, that he's better on soft ground. He won the listed race at Doncaster, and the Group 1 last time was on soft ground. I've always felt he was a little bit better with cutting the ground. If that was to happen and come up that way, then perhaps. And if she was to run, and I doubt she will, because they've got Magical. I've always been a Magic Wand fan myself. I think a mile and a quarter Ascot. She was so impressive in the Ribblesdale last year. Hayden's been quite tough on her. She's been to Dubai, America twice. Just think, last 4 runs have been 3 in America and once in Dubai. We haven't really seen the best of her, I don't think. I think 10 furlongs at Ascot is perfect. I don't think she's that far behind Magical. She was ahead of her at this stage last year, that's for sure. They didn't even think they were in the same parish. Magical took off at the back end of the season and proved that not to be the case. But at this stage last year, Magic Wand was definitely their number 1 filly. And things just haven't gone right for her. But I think there's still some juice in the tank there. And I wouldn't be surprised whether it's this race, I don't know. But I think she's a filly to keep on the right side of.
Okay. Really nice that. We know you're a big Magical fan, but any others you want to mention at big prices who you'd see as dangers?
No, I think we've said it all. And Gayath, you mentioned that name, but I mean, huge amount of ground to make up with Wallgeist. Can't see that happening. So, no, I think the ones at the top are solids, and yeah, Magical will be my tip.
Okay, Magical, your selection then. Tom, just clarify who you're going to go for.
Yeah, I like Wallgeist a lot. I mean, I've always liked Wallgeist, and I've lost a few quid on Wallgeist, but I still think he's very good. And last time in the Ghana, I thought he was better than ever, so I'll stick with him. Okay,
and Darren, finally.
To be honest, I really wish Crystal Ocean was running here. We'll talk more about him when we come to Hardwicke, but I think this year is going to be his year. He does, look, he hasn't won his Group 1, and that's fair enough, but I think that's an anomaly as opposed to a reflection of the horse's absolute quality. He has very little or nothing to find with any of these, and the way Michael Stout trains, I think this could be his absolute best year ever. Look, chances are he's going to end up running the Hardwicke, so I'm not going to put him up here. I take a speculative stab at Riot, who I think is better than what he showed in France the last day.
Okay, that's very interesting. So Michael Stout's had an excellent year so far. Crystal Ocean, I mean, there's plenty of worse horses than him who have won Group 1, so fingers crossed he'll be able to get one at some stage. Let's move on to the Hardwicke then. That's a really good introduction into it. Crystal Ocean, he's going to be the favourite for this. Last year's winner. He is the favourite, isn't he? He's the rightful favourite, Darren.
He is, yeah, and the prices would suggest this is where he's going to go, Maddie. He's our 6-4 favourite. Riot then is 5-1 from 10s. Southern France is 6s. Mirage Dancer is 6s. Defoe is 6s. Kew Gardens is 7s. Massar is 8s, and it is Bellsbar.
Yeah, interesting that move on Gareth. What can you tell us about that? Because a lot of people seem to think that he wants to step up in trip.
Yeah, I found it strange myself. I'm not really sure what to make of it. I mean, look, you'd have to respect a move like that in the market. Would suggest that he is going to go to the Hardwicke, but I'd be in the same boat as yourself there. I'd be more inclined to, to be honest, I'm not really sure what to make with Maddie, to be honest.
Yeah, no worries. Tom, let's start with you this time then. Crystal Ocean, we've spoke about his sort of qualities already. This is a bit of a funny race with lots of overlap with the Prince of Wales' stakes, but who do you want to talk about? Who's most excites you in this market?
Well, I love Crystal Ocean. I do. I think he's clearly the most likely winner of the race. I agree with a lot of what he said, but I think it was a bit harsh on Crystal Ocean there. I think he is a bona fide Group 1 performer. I think just last year he got beaten a short head in the King George, did he? Or he just got touched off just by Poet's Word in the King George. I think he's a really good horse. He was second to Enable and Cracksman at Ascot.
He's so consistent, and he just goes out and does it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I love him. I think he's really good. Whether I'd back him at, I think Darren said 6-4 for any, at this stage for a Hardwicke, I wouldn't. I think there's a few in there that have a good chance, and I love Kew Gardens in this. I thought Kew Gardens should have won.
But were there any excuses?
Yeah, Maddie, it's like the filly, wasn't it? Pink Dogwood. I don't want to go in there because that's so hard. That went. My child's inheritance went on Pink Dogwood on Saturday. But you can't call good rides that when the winner, you go from behind the horse in front of you, a good few lengths in front of it. Do you see what I mean? Kew Gardens went from behind Defoe to in front of Defoe and then behind Defoe again. It's not necessarily the jockey's fault because that's the way races are. They evolve, and you don't know when to go or what to do. But for
a Ledger winner, you would have expected him to stay on stronger than that, wouldn't you?
He's a 1.5 mile horse, Maddie. It's what he is. He won the Ledger because he's class. I think he's a 1.5 mile horse, always has been. I like him. I loved him in the Queen's Vase last year. I backed him for the King George afterwards, and he missed the race at the 11th hour. I think he's really good. I think he's as good, if not better, than Crystal Ocean, and I think he's got a cracking chance in this. I think also look back at Epsom there. He was hanging a bit. He didn't really like the track. He'll be miles better at Ascot. I really think he's really good, and I think this race is equal to the Prince of Wales is really. I think if Crystal Ocean, Gayeth and Kew Gardens turn up, it's a Group 1 in all but name. And Defoe, can't forget Defoe.
Why is it not a Group 1? We've had this discussion in the office quite recently, and it just makes no sense to have a top 1.5 mile contest at Royal Ascot and it just not be a Group 1.
It's because of the King George, Maddie. You know, the King. When we were growing up, Watsy and I can't say that because I always make Watsy out to be my age when he's not.
Yeah, come on, you've got a few years on me.
when I was growing up and Watsy was still a little lad, the King George was the big race. The Arc wasn't the big race. The King George was the big race in the the big mile.
Can't they run in both?
They can, but you don't want to. If this is a Group 1 and the King George is a Group 1, it sort of detracts from it, don't you think? I think that's probably the reasoning behind it. And also, if you look down there's not many runners turn up in this, do they? You know, and it's always sort of been the poor relation to the Prince of Wales's. And 5 turned up for this race last year at Ascot, and I think while the winners deserve to be Group 1 horses, Telescope, Crystal Ocean, all those good Harbinger before he went on to win the King George. I do think that it would detract from the King George, and that's the reason why it's only a Group 2. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Boring. Let's get back to the winners.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Watsy, come on then. Who do you fancy in this?
Well, it's funny. Just going back to last Friday, I had a win double on Friday on Pink Dogwood and Kew Gardens.
My God! No. How many ladders had you walked under?
I know, and they must have gone about 1.01, the pair of them, in running when they came with that surge down the middle to take it up. And, you spoke about Kew Gardens. I couldn't believe that he got overhauled by Defoe having hit the front. But I just think I think it goes back to what Tom says. I don't think he likes Epsom. I don't think he handled the track. He performed his only bad run last season came in the Derby, and I think he got to the front there, and I think he just started hanging a bit on the camber, and I think Ryan Moore it kind of prevented him from going absolutely, to his maximum on the horse, because he was having to mind him on the camber at the same time as kind of push him forward. And I think that was quite noticeable in the closing stages, because there is no way in a normal race, in a kind of conventional track, that a strong stayer, as you said, like Kew Gardens, who's won over 2 furlongs further than that, should be getting overhauled in the final furlong. When he's hit the front, you would expect him to be at his strongest in the final furlong. So it didn't make any sense at all to me that Defoe could come and overhaul him, other than that he wasn't comfortable on the track and wasn't able to stride out. Sorry to
interrupt. Any chance it was quicker down the inside there? All 3 of the Group 1s went to the horses that race nearer the far rail. I'm just throwing it out there. I just wonder if that might be the reason. Could well be another factor as well. That there was not a golden highway as such, but a slight advantage on the rail. And the way it turned out, he came round horses, as did Pink Dogwood, and came down the middle, and the ones on the inside got back to him. As we know, he likes Ascot. He went to this meeting last year after a poor run in the Derby and went on and won the Queen's Vase. So he can handle the quick turnaround. He can go to Ascot, no problem at all. I think Aidan was very quick to nominate this target for him after the race. So it looks like cup trips for him have been shelved for the time being. So I obviously think he's got a lot more to offer at middle distances, and I think that's the right call with him at the moment. And I wouldn't be disappointed at all by his run. I obviously was disappointed because I backed him on Friday, but in terms of the future, I wouldn't be disappointed about his run in the Coronation Cup. I think it was a plus, if anything, because he ran very well, despite, for me, not handling the track.
Okay, so there is a viable excuse there. Epsom is a very idiosyncratic track, isn't it? But bizarre ending that. Darren, turns out Kew Gardens is the big talking horse when we're previewing this Hardwicke. Is there any others you want to throw into the mix, or do you have a strong opinion on the Coronation Cup?
I'll get my sob story in first. I backed Kew Gardens and Pink Dogwood last weekend. The biggest bet of the year on Pink Dogwood, actually. So that was a bit of a sickener.
Not sure what to 1, Darren.
I beg your pardon?
I bet you didn't have 50 to 1.
I sure did not, Sam. Absolutely did not.
We could all cry together. We should go for one of those.
Hey, this is not a Ribblesdale preview. Let's stick to the Hardwicke, yeah?
It's the opposite of an after-timing session, I think, is it?
Sorry?
It's the opposite of after-timing this, is it?
No, exactly, yeah.
Pity party.
Yeah.
Look, I think Chris Slocum's going to be extremely hard to beat here, to be honest. There's as big as 7-4 out there, and to me that would look very, very fair. I'm not sure there's anything in here. Well, sorry, if Gaia shows up, that is obviously a feasible danger to him, but I'm looking down here. I'm not sure there's anything else. There's one of the price, one of Aiden's, Hunting Horn, who I thought was half interest in his 20s. I think there might be bigger out there. He seems to have improved a bit this year. His runs in Qatar that they are by as well were quite good, and he was very unlucky not to rob a grade one in America at Belmont. Michael Hussey rode him to the front that day, ran at Stormer, and as well as that, his career best by some distance came here at Ascot. He beat Cross Batten in Group 3, I think it was last year. So he's just one I thought was half interesting if he has improved again this year at a price, but it's hard to get too much to inspire me here, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit the same about it. But Tom, presumably your selection's going to be with Kew Gardens then?
Yeah, I'd back Kew Gardens at the prices. Maddie, I think the favourite's got a very good chance, but 6 or 7 to 1 on what Darren said there. Yeah, he'd be my selection.
Yeah, possibly an overreaction to that defeat, don't you think?
Yeah, 7 to 1. You can back him each way and make a profit. I can't see him finishing out the first 3. Put it that way.
Yeah, and he is a confirmed runner. Okay, then Darren, and you've already sort of nailed your colours to the mast with Chris Lotion and Hunting Horn.
Yeah. To be honest, I'd be backing Chris Lotion at 7-4, and I'd give Hunting Horn a sniff at his price as well.
Thanks for your selections there then, lads. Before we go to the next section of the postcast, this is my opportunity to plug the Royal Ascot Guide for 2019. It's a really unbeatable resource. You've got to get your hands on it, whether you're after some top tips for the Royal meeting or just a really good day out. It's packed full of brilliant stuff and advice. Go to racingpost.com/shop to get your hands on it. It's just $12.99.
Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to this Royal Ascot Antepostcast then. As I mentioned, the sprints are next. The Commonwealth Cup is our first port of call, a race that hasn't been around that long. Darren, what do you think of the race? I mean, some people think it sort of detracts from other divisions. Are you a fan or not a fan of the Commonwealth Cup?
No, I really like it. I think it's been a great addition to the calendar, Maddie, to be honest. I'm looking back now and I'm wondering how we ever did without it back in the day, It's produced some amazing horses down through the years, and I'm quite glad to have it here. Nothing more exciting than a 6 furlong sprint down the Ascot Straight.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, Watsy. I mean, some horses just aren't going to be milers, are they? So they need another option, and taking on the older horses is maybe a bit tough at this stage of the season. Yeah,
last year's renewal was fantastic, wasn't it? Sansamali was just beaten in it, and he went on to win the Group 1 sprint at Ascot's Champion Day meeting. So it produces very good horses as well. So and massive talking points about this year's edition. I'm sure we'll get on to Calix in a mo, but yeah, it looked done and dusted a few weeks ago, didn't it? Before we went to Haydock and got chinned at 13 to 2 on.
Yeah, it did. Tom, before we get stuck into the contenders, can always rely on you for a controversial opinion, but what do you think?
Oh, Maddie, I get in trouble with the Commonwealth Cup because I don't like it. I never have done. Well,
that's all right.
Listen, I like the race. I think it's moo hurrah, and we've had some really good winners, and it's good that we've got a race like this for 3-year-olds. What I hate about it is that we're breeding for this race now and not breeding. Why we end up with a derby with 6 Aidan O'Brien horses and 2 contenders that finish last and second last is because of races like the Commonwealth Cup, because we're all our stallions are becoming sprint stallions, and therefore we're detracting from the races that I grew up with and I love. Now, it might be that this is the right look. I freely admit I might be out of step with what is required these days, but 6 furlong races for 3-year-olds, there's plenty of them as the season goes on, and I think it's just detracting from the Derby, and we're ending up with worse and worse staying horses because everyone wants the need for speed, which is fine. You get good horses. I'm not saying it's not an exciting race, and it is, but I just deep down, I think there's something so about it.
Yeah, well, it's worth saying that because if it has an impact on our breeding industry and things like that, and it's you're entitled to your own opinion. I'm sure you won't be the only one. We'll start with you then, Tom, because we're talking about stallions here now. I know you think that Kingman is going to have an amazing impact in future years to come when it comes to the milers and horses like that. We spoke about King of Comedy and countless other of his really promising horses coming through on these postcasts. But Calix, I mean, where do we go with him? Because he's unbeaten at Ascot. He looked an absolute superstar until Haydock the other day. And I just couldn't believe it when someone told me he'd gotten beat. I was this horse's biggest fan, and I'm not sure we should be giving up on him just yet.
Oh, you can't give up on him, Maddie. You definitely can't give up on him. 2 from 2. You mean he's been incredibly impressive both times at Ascot. We've got to make the point before we go any further. Straight course at Ascot is, of course, specialist track. Has been since they relayed it. Calix goes really well there. What happened at Haydock, I do not know. But that wasn't Calix.
No.
Simple as that. A top speed figure of 41, and he couldn't even, my God, he's one of the, he's a rocket. So I don't know what happened there. The problem is you're backing him, you're asked to back him now on the back of that. I don't know what went wrong. I don't think John Gosden will know what went wrong, but something clearly did, because that wasn't him. Do you back him for the? I wouldn't back him now. But I'd certainly consider backing him on the day, because I don't. If he's there in the Calix that we saw win the Coventry, or the Calix that won at the start of the season, I think he's got a great chance. But as you say, what do you do? He's one of those. He's one of those now that sort of in the. I don't know what to do with. He's one of those that if you don't back him, he'll win by miles, and if you do back him, he'll blow out again. So it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Watsy?
Well, he's looked brilliant more often than he's looked ordinary. He's had one really ordinary performance, and in the Coventry last season, on his comeback this season, he's looked brilliant. And I'm always, as you know, a big fan of giving horses a bad run. There didn't seem to be any massive excuses coming out of that. They said he might have banged his head or something,
maybe
apparently
at
the start of the race, but. It was one of those you just thought, I'll watch this just to see another brilliant performance.
Yeah.
And you expect a horse when he's 13-2 just to go and do the job, no problem at all. But he wasn't winning that from quite some way out. And it's an intriguing puzzle. I'm always one for forgiving a horse a bad run, and he's become a much better price now than he would have been had he hosed up in
Haydock is a funny track, isn't it?
Haydock can be a funny track. I'd pay really close attention to the comments coming out of the Gosden yard, before the race. I'm sure we'll get loads of quotes in the Racing Post and be speaking to him about Calix in the lead up to Ascot, and on the morning when we get the pre-race quotes, I'd be really interested to listen to what John Gosden has to say about what happened at Haydock, and about just to detect vibes of confidence. You want kind of good positive vibes going into that race now, having had that. So if connections are positive and confident, they've got Calix back to his best, then.
Do you guys think he could have bounced? I don't know. I'm just trying to think something out there. I mean, he was off from Royal Ascot. Sorry?
That was my thought this morning.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Said it to one of the lads here. Yeah. Is it possible that he bounced? Does that happen with sprinters?
Does that mean that he's going to be fine at Royal Ascot in the Commonwealth Cup then?
Oh, don't know.
God only knows.
Yeah.
God only knows.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? My view on it is very much that I was asked to do a tip for any Royal Ascot race, and I just thought, what is he now? Darren, we'll get you to run through him in a minute, but say he's like 6-1 or something like that. At his best, I thought he was an absolute freak. He's obviously not been straightforward. He's had injuries and all sorts, but I think he is so talented that it just had to be an overreaction, that price. But no one knows what's going to happen, do they? It'd be great if I had my crystal ball. But anyway, Darren, let's just run us through the prices, because Calix we could talk about him all day.
Yeah, we definitely could. Yeah. 10 Sovereigns is our 7-4 fav. Calix is 5s. We initially went to 8s after he got beaten, but we were.
I think 8s is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, we had Manners put on us pretty quick, to be honest with you, and we're forced to tip him back into 5s, which is probably about right. Jash then is 6-1. Hello Yumzain, who conquered Calix at the weekend, is 8-1. Lady Kai is 8, So Perfect is 10s. Fairyland is 12s. Cadam is 12s, and it is 16s bar.
Okay, let's dedicate some time to the favourite then, 10 Sovereigns, 5th of 19 in the 2,000 guineas. Are the vibes that he's going to head here, Darren?
Yeah, the prices again would suggest this is where he's going to go. How I feel about it, I'm not too sure. I actually thought he stayed fine in the guineas, Matty, to be honest. I thought he had to do a lot of his own donkey work as well, and the race certainly wasn't run to suit. He was on the wrong side, etc., etc. I wouldn't be so quick to rule out a mile. Like, he is very, very fast, so there's always the doubt with horses like that they can stay a mile. But if they were to go hard up front here, if he was dropped out, put to sleep, if he came with one rattle, he could definitely be thereabouts in the shakeout if he did actually stay. But it is a very stiff mile at Ascot as well, we have to remember.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, you'll always talk about sires and exceed and excels at Ascot, and you're very keen on that side of things. No, nay, never. Could there be a chance that he's just not as good as he was at 2, or...?
There's a chance. There's definitely a chance. I don't like him at all, Maddie, at the prices. I think he's a terrible price. I really, really do. I mean, I'm slightly in the same camp as you, Darren, that I'm not totally convinced it was a stamina thing, but I just don't think the form's any good.
Yeah.
I just don't think the form's any good. I think even last year's Middle Park's not very good. I think he needs soft ground. That's what I think. A lot of those no-nay nivers seem to like soft ground.
Okay.
I just think 7-4 at a track he's never run on potentially fast ground after coming, 5th or 6th in the Guineas that hasn't worked out well. You can have him at 7-4. I wouldn't back him at, double that price.
Yeah.
That's I'd agree with you completely. Like, I'm going on about the mile there. I'd have loved to seen him in the St. James's Palace, but like at 7-4 here over the 6 furlongs, you have to take him on. I think.
We need more evidence that he's as good as we thought he could be last season, don't we? I think.
Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with his Middle Park win, as Tom said. It was slightly scrambled, wasn't it? Although he had a few quick runs, but. And yeah, he's run quite well in the Guineas, but not, as Tom says, not well enough that you'd want to be...
It's not like he looked like the winner and then just faded out of it. It was a sort of so-so.
No, it was an okay-ish run. It was a good return. It wasn't anything that, had you kind of screaming to put him in the tracker and back him next time. And at the prices, he's very much short enough for me, because I think there's a couple more interesting at, much bigger prices.
Yeah, there's one I want to mention at quite a big price, but I'll leave you guys to talk about them first. Jash, he was second in the Middle Park. So, Tom, if you don't rate the Middle Park form, you wouldn't have been that impressed with his listed win last time over 7?
No, not really. Not really.
He wants stepping back to 6, doesn't he?
He definitely wants to go back to... I think he's a sprinter through and through, but... I don't know. Once again, the form wasn't great, was it? A neck to Anzano, a nose to Watan, 2.5 lengths to far above. It's just not great, is it? And as you say, wasn't that impressed with the Middle Park last year. No, not for me. I wouldn't be backing Jash, no.
Okay. Darren, who do you like towards the top of the market? We've spoken a bit about Calix. I mean, we've got, just reading off this list here, Lady Kaya, So Perfect, Fairyland, plenty of fillies in there as well.
Yeah, the two I kind of like here are Hello You Zane for starters. Like, I was kind of initially thinking the same as probably most other people, that his beating the Calix was something of a fluke. But looking back, like, I don't think it was. He had the form in the book to say he could improve again this year. The worry was, I suppose, was he better on soft ground, because that's all he'd run on last year. But he's obviously proven he could even be a better horse again on good to firm. And I wouldn't be quick to say that his win was a fluke. The second one then, I think I really like, is Lady Kaya. I think getting the weight allowance here, if you pop her out in front here, she could be very, very hard to take back. I think she was a non-stayer in the Guineas, and the stiff 6 furlongs here could just suit her perfectly.
Yeah, she was second in that Guineas, and that's form that looks stronger than the Colts, would you say, Tom?
The Guineas?
The 1,000 better than the 2,000.
Well, I think the winner of the 1,000 Guineas would probably slightly stronger, but not much in it. I don't think that the actual... Bar the winner, I don't think it was a great race. The 1,000 Guineas, Angels Hideaway got lapped, didn't she, on Saturday? So no, not right. Not sure. But I do think Darren's right about Lady Carr dropping back in trips by Dandy Man, isn't she? My issue with her is I know it was decent ground at Newmarket, but if it got very fast ground at Ascot, I'd be worried about her. I think she needs softer ground myself. But I could be wrong about that. I mean, I just have a feeling that she won. If you want the one I quite like, it is Cardem.
I knew you would say him.
Cardem for Charlie Hills. It was not a great race he won last time. He beat a big outsider, but he just got something about him that I think's a very, very good horse going forward. The way he's just big physical sprinter. Charlie Hills with his sprinters. I just thought at a big price he might go well, because I think it's wide open bar Calix. I think Calix is miles better than the rest, but I don't know what Calix we're going to get. So we can't, come the day, I'll probably have to back Calix as well, because he'd kill you when he comes clear on the bridle, won't he, at 5-1? You think, what was I doing? But at the moment, it's a wide open race. There's plenty in there, but quite like the look of Cardem for Charlie Hills. I just think there's something about him.
Yeah, he's got a nice profile, hasn't he? He's definitely very, very fast. I like him. You're a fan of an A. O'Brien filly, aren't you?
Yeah, I quite like, especially from an each-way angle, So Perfect, because she's very, very consistent. I think she's had 9 starts and finished in the top 3 on 7 of those, all in pretty good races. She had a busy 2-year-old campaign. She's placed in the Cheveley Park. Thought it was a really good run. I think connections over the winter, they couldn't quite decide whether to try and stretch her out into a Guineas filly or come back in trips. That's why they ran her in the Fred Darling at Newbury on her return when she finished third. There's only been a couple of short heads, I think, over 7 furlongs. I think they made the right call here, bringing her back. They brought her back to 6 at Naas last time and she won really comfortably. And I'm pretty sure that a stiff 6 at Ascot will suit her very well. Tom's a big fan of Size. She's by Scat Daddy, who traditionally does well at Ascot, loves the quick ground, which, in a normal year you would get nice quick ground at Ascot. So I think she's one of those fillies that if they go a decent pace in the Commonwealth Cup and over a stiff 6, I think is absolutely perfect for her. She ran very well at Royal Ascot last year and she went for the Queen Mary and finished 4th over 5. That's probably a little bit too short for her. And yeah, I mean, she's probably placed more often than she's won, so you do wonder if she has her limitations. But on the other hand, like I say, with all the Aidan O'Briens, they can just take a big leap forward, and I think sprinting will really suit her. I think fast ground will really suit her. I think Ascot will suit her. I think there's plenty from an each way angle to get stuck into about her.
Yeah. I sort of turned my nose up when you mentioned that before we went on air, but you're winning me over a little bit. She was impressive in the Lacken Stakes last time.
I like her too, Maddie. I think she's got a good shot. My slight concern is that I know after her last win, they said they might run in the King's Stand. She'd sat quick. I wouldn't run her in the King's Stand. I think I'm with Watsy. I think this is her race, but if they've got 10 sovereigns for this and they don't have something for the King's Stand, you never know. They might. Yeah. They do. You're at Royal Ascot. You want to run her in every race when you're a big operation like Coolmore is. If she runs here, I think Watsy's right. I think she has got a good each way chance. I just hope she runs.
Okay. Before we go over to Darren, I'm going to throw one in there, and I like Big Brother's Pride. I mean, again, some of this sprinting form isn't all that strong, but she looked really good when she won the Prix-CG, I think by 4 lengths in France last time. I think she could be, I don't know, Darren will have to remind me what price she is in a minute, but she's clearly got the quality there and could be one to figure at an each way price. So we'll go over to you now, Darren.
16 to 1. 16 to 1, yeah. Wouldn't would you have taken a poke at that? Yeah, my two are Hello Humans A and Lady Kaya, as I said. Lady Kaya would be probably my main pick here. As I said, I think the stiff mile here, and if she could just jump out in front like she always does, she has a fairly good chance of getting home, and she could be very hard to peg back.
Okay.
Darren, happy with it? I'm just slightly concerned if it was really quick for her.
Potentially, yeah. To be honest, I'd still be happy enough to take my chances at the price. Tom, if she was a small bit shorter, I'd maybe leave her alone.
Okay, so Darren's there. He's solidified his selection there with Lady Kaya. Tom, go on then. Final selection.
I know what I'm going to do, Maddie. I'm going to back Calix on the day if it's 4 to 1. I doubt it will be. I think if he comes there and John Gosden says it's all right, I think he's miles better than them. But what do you do now at this stage? I would suggest having a few quid on Cardem each way. He hasn't got the form yet, but I think he's the type of horse that is just going to go under the radar a bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on Calix. He's a funny old horse. Nick Watts.
I'm quite happy to have a go. I think it was 10 to 1, Darren said, on So Perfect each way. I think that's a really good price.
Nice. You've been in good form recently. Let's hope you can keep it up. Let's go for a break before we go on to the Diamond Jubilee.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this AntePostcast. The Diamond Jubilee is our final race we're looking at today. Sprint over 6 furlongs again. Plenty of horses we can discuss when talking about this, but let's get a view of the market from Darren.
Sure thing, Maddie. Yeah, so Invincible Army is our 3 to 1 favourite here. Inns of Court then is 6 to 1. Blue Point is 8s. Sands of Mali is 10s. Dream of Dream is 10s. The Tin Man is 12s. City Light is 12s. Bound for Nova is 14s, and it is 16s bar the rest.
Okay, Tom, I'll go to you first. Invincible Army, he won the Camage Trophy, he then won the Duke of York. He was only 9th in the Commonwealth Cup last year, but he seems a different horse this time around. He looks classy. Can he do it finally on the biggest stage?
Oh, he's a good horse, isn't he, Maddie? I thought he looked really, really good the other day. This is another step up for him, isn't it? The Diamond Jubilee. Do I fancy him at the prices? Probably not. I think just the Ascot factor again. Does he run well there? I'm just not convinced by him round Ascot. I think it's such a sprinters. I love sprinters that have been, have great form at the track. And for me, at 3 to 1, he has won there though, hasn't he? So didn't he win there last year? What's it at the start of the season? I'm trying to rack my brains here.
Yeah.
Stakes.
Yeah, he did. He beat Eqtadar, didn't he, in soft ground? But then he ran in the Commonwealth Cup last year, didn't he? And
yeah, 9th.
Didn't run so well. He's
hard
one
to
of
sum
those.
up,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's hard to sum up. He looks better than he is. Do I think he's a standout horse on form? No, I don't. Simple as that.
Okay, nice analysis there. What's your opinion on Invincible Army?
Well, I think he's obviously taken a good step forward from last year, and he's looked good. He's beaten the same horse twice, Major Jumbo. And my selection for this race, we haven't come on to him yet, but he does have collateral form with Invincible Army, and that's Inns of Court, the French raider who won yesterday, the Prix de Gros Chêne, and Major Jumbo ran in that race as well, and he beaten 3 lengths. I think Inns of Court is quite interesting for a few reasons. He's bigger priced than Invincible Army for one. And he's a kind of a late starter to sprinting, really. I mean, he was running in mile races as a 3-year-old. I think he almost won the Prix Jacques Le Marois, can't say that very well, in France. And I think he ran in that year's French Guineas as well. So he's obviously got plenty of form over further, but he's run 2 races over 6 furlongs this season. He's won both of them. He beat City Light in a listed race on the first occasion. And then, like I said, that good win yesterday where Major Jumbo was in behind. So he's got the form there to suggest he's a huge player, and he's a bigger price than Invincible Army. So I think I'd be tempted to side with him.
Yeah, short head second last year, City Light, so that form works out well as well. Darren, let's go over to you and get a view on Invincible Army.
I could not have been more impressed than with York. I took him on that day with Yafta. I just didn't think he was as good as that, and he's proven me very, very wrong. Obviously has course form here at Ascot, albeit it was on soft ground. He beat Elected, so that's maybe a slight concern, but he's won on good firm before. I'm probably looking to take him on at 3-1. It's just that my natural inclination in races like this would be to take on the favourite, but he probably isn't a horrendous price at 3s either.
Yeah, maybe not. James Tate seems to think he's a bit of a funny horse, and when they've got him right, he is very good, but whether he'll be right on the day is another question. Previous winner in there, the Tin Man, he was 3rd on his reappearance in the Leisure Stakes. I mean, he won it in 2017. Tom, is he just getting on a bit now?
He's good Ascot form. I wouldn't rule him out. James Fancher has a great record at Royal Ascot. He will have trained him for the race. I wouldn't be too worried about his Windsor comeback.
Neither would I. I was there, and I thought, with all the weight he had, it wasn't too much to be panicking about.
Yeah, he was. What was he beaten last year? A length. A length by Merchant Navy. Bound for Nowhere, City Light. They're all going to be in it again. I think City Light might be interesting again. I get Watsy's point about Inns of Court. There wasn't that much between them in that race at, was it Maison Lafitte? And I'm just looking at the prices, and I think City Light was 2nd in the race last year. Probably should have won. Bigger price. He'd be just on a value terms. I think he's double the price of Inns of Court. I think that's what Darren said. He'd be the one for me simply because he's got the course form.
Okay. I know a few Shrewdies are mentioning Bound for Nowhere for this, 4th in the Commonwealth Cup and 3rd in this race last year. So it'd be interesting if he turns up. What about Sands of Mali? Again, similar sort of profile to Invincible Army, but he was only sort of 6th of 13 in the Alquoise when we last saw him behind Blue Point, Darren.
Yeah, just you say that the Shrewdies fancy that Bound for Nowhere. Bad news to them, because I actually kind of fancy him as well. He was going to be my one for the race, so that can't be a good thing. Sands of Mali, a bit of a weird one. He just the win in Ascot at the end of the year seemed to come out of nowhere. Maddie and I kind of get it hard to trust that form. The Maidan, beating the Maidan wouldn't bother me too much because I don't pass any remarks in the form of Maidan. I don't think it carries over to Europe very well. He's 10-1. He's probably a fair enough price, but if you look down through his form, there's a lot of zeros there, a lot of 5s, 6s, 7s, and he's just a little bit too inconsistent for me.
Yeah, it was a funny race tactically, wasn't it? And soft ground, and I can understand why you wouldn't take that face value. Let's talk about Blue Point, because he won the King's Stand last year, obviously, but he's shown he's also very, very good over 6.
Well, coming into the forum today, he was going to be my selection until I read Charlie Appleby's quote after his last win when he said, we're going to go back to the King's Stand. If they did come for this race, I think he'd win. It's as simple as that. His Ascot form is superb. At 1-3-1-1, I think his course figures are. I don't know, yeah, so if he came here, I think he'd win, but I think it's a massive question mark as to whether he does come here, because he might go for the King's Stand, and that's a race that seems to suit him ideally, particularly with Batash in opposition to kind of blast off and set a strong target for him and for him to come and collar him exactly like he did last season. So I would think he would go there again. Otherwise, I would fancy him for this. Sansamali, just a quick note on him. If you're fancying him, he's actually in a race at Hamilton on Thursday, which would be worth paying attention to because it might be his warm-up for the Royal Meeting, and he's in against Brando and Don Juan Triumphant in that race. So it's a good little race, and it'll be a good marker as to where he is. If you fancy him, I'd suggest getting on before Thursday because if he wins that, then he will be clipped.
Top heads up. Thanks very much. Tom Siegel, who else do you want to talk about?
Santamala, we've got to talk about him, Maddie. I think his Ascot's form very good. He was very unlucky in the Commonwealth Cup. He was second last year. Before that, he'd beaten Invincible Army. I think he then probably did a bit too much too soon. He took on the older horses in the July Cup at Deauville. Wasn't far behind the Tin Man in the Haydock Sprint Cup on soft ground. And I think he's going to run well simply because he's got Ascot form. He's versatile regards ground. Whether he's quite a superstar sprinter, I don't know, but he's as good as Invincible Army. We know that because all his form suggests he is. He's won Group 1s, Invincible Army hasn't. And I think he'll run really well. And I think because of his Ascot form, I think whatever Darren said there, double-figure prices are pretty. They make him out to be not the horse that I think he is. I think he's a very good sprinter.
Okay, and
top class.
We'll give the final word then to Darren before we clarify some selections. Darren, any others that you want to talk about?
I agree with every word Nick said. To be honest, about Blue Point, I would love to see him here. To be honest, when I'm analysing the race, I have to assume he's not going. Like yourselves, I assumed he's going back to the King's Stand, but I would absolutely love to see him go over the stiff six here again, pop out in front. And again, as Nick said, when he goes back to 5 furlongs, it's going to be himself and Batash cutting each other's throats the whole way up the straight. And that, it's very hard to win a race as a front runner when you have another mental front runner running alongside you.
That's not true, Darren, is it? That didn't happen last year in the King's Stand, did it? He's just going to sit in behind Batash like he did last year, isn't he?
Yeah, but it's a very strong pace to go off, Tom, when you've Batash there. And as I said, Blue Point, I think Blue Point's at his best when he can lead.
I thought he was brilliant in the King's Stand last year when he just sat in behind him on magic time. That was incredibly fast time. I think
they set it up for him, didn't they?
Yeah, but I think they'll do it again, won't they? Because I think he can sit in behind. I think that's the point about Blue Point, is he's versatile, whereas the others are one-dimensional, and that's why I agree with you. If he ran here, I think he's a class above the ones he's going to run against. But I think they'll drop him back to 5 and just do what they did last year, and he'll win the King's Stand again.
Do you think he could be as good over 6, or do you think he's not as good over 6?
I think he's equally as good. I think he's just a top-class, world-class sprinter over 5 and 6 furlongs. I think you go back over those years, I sound like an old man again, but all those horses used to run over 5 and 6. Didn't make any difference because they're just absolute top class. And I think Blue Point's one of them. I don't see any issue with him over 5 or 6. And if he ran here, he'd win this, and I think he'll win the King's Stand when he runs there. I
think the thing is tactically with him, isn't it? You know that if he runs in the King's Stand, he's going to be guaranteed that flying pace that he can just pick off. Whereas here, there's probably a little bit more question marks about, positioning and things like that. Would that be fair?
Well, it is, but the boys have pointed out that he's versatile, isn't he? He can make the running. So
he'd win both, probably, wouldn't he?
I think he'd win both, yeah. I think he'd win whichever one they went for. But to be honest, why I agree with the boys is I think this is an easier race than the 5 furlong race. He's more likely to win this one than the 5 furlong one, but I still think he'll win the 5 furlong one.
Right, that's enough beating around the bush then. Blue Point, we're going to presume he's not going for this. What's he? Who is your main sort of selection in this?
Inns of Court would be mine, definitely. I think 6 to 1. Darren said that would do me very nicely.
Yeah. Okay. Nice and straightforward. Tom.
I like Inns of Court, but at the prices, I have to be with City Light and Santa Marley. I think they tie in with Inns of Court and Invincible Army, and they're just bigger prices. Yeah.
Okay. So very much looking at it from a price perspective. And finally, Darren.
The one I came down on was Bound for Nowhere for Wesley Board. I thought his run last year was brilliant, and I don't think the race is actually quite as hot this year, and he's the same price as he was last year. So just for those reasons alone, I said along with Wesley Ward's record at Ascot, I thought he was worth a flyer at 14s.
Yeah, so shrewd. You're one of those shrewdies on him at a big price. Anyway, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks to Nick, Tom and Darren for their contributions. We'll see you soon on another one of these Royal Ascot AntePostcasts. Until next time, goodbye.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.